So, I popped into High House Insurance to see if they could quote for my house insurance rather than using the internet. High House got a great deal. So to celebrate, I bought a posh hairdo. It made me look beautiful, gorgeous enough to become a highly paid model. I then won Celebrity Big Brother. I had an affair with an MP. Now I'm promoting a doll of me that says, "Cool blimey, you're well fit."
Happy things happen when you talk face-to-face with High House Insurance. See if we can beat your home insurance quote from the internet. Find us on the High Street Selsey or call 606 552.
Hello and a warm welcome to Manhood Internet Radio. I'm Tony Weiner, your host for this show. So, what do we have for you this week? Well, we start the programme with Alison's review of what's on in the area, and this will be followed by an interview with Becky White, the Selsey Town Council's clerk. Our gardening expert has some gardening tips, and we've finished with Mr. Quiz Kevin. So, let's get going. It's over to Alison for a roundup of what's on in the area.
Hello again and welcome once again to our weekly look at what's on in Selsey and Bracklesham. So on Wednesday the 14th of September it's time for the Selsey WI monthly meeting. They meet at 2:15 at Selsey Town Hall and their speaker this month is Douglas Eaton, intriguingly entitled The Queen's Knickers, not our present Queen we hasten to add. On Thursday the 15th of September, it's another ladies' meeting, LINC, which stands for Ladies in Contact. They meet in the evening at 7:15 at St Peter's Church Hall, and they're having an evening with Maxine Payne, and new members would be very welcome to go to that. On Saturday the 17th of September, we have a day of marvellous moths. So the RSPB are going to open up their moth trap and reveal which super moths have been caught from the night before. So you need to get down there between 8 o'clock and 9 o'clock in the morning. The cost for that is £2 a person or £1.50 for RSPB members, and that's to be held at the Pagham Harbour Visitors Centre. On Sunday the 18th of September, it's time for the monthly Selsey Carers car boot sale. Now that's normally held at the Academy, but you will need to watch out for posters to see where that's going to be held this month. Cars are £7, cars and trailers £10 and vans £12, so do have a look for the posters and see where the carers are having their boot sale for September. Later in the afternoon it's time for respite teas at East Beach Church from 3 o'clock until 4:30. We'll have a look at the tide times now before we go over to the Witterings. So the tide times for the week beginning Wednesday the 14th, there should be a high tide at 10:10 in the morning and a low tide at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Moving out through the week to end on Tuesday the 20th of September with a low tide at 7:05 in the morning and a high tide at 2:30 in the afternoon. So now that we've had a look at the tides, we'll move across to see what's going on in the Witterings and Bracklesham. On Wednesday the 14th, it's time for table tennis, which is a drop-in and play session for adults to be held at the barn between 10 and 12. Also in the morning, CBT motorcycle training at Bracklesham Barn from 9 until 11, followed by gyrokensis with Jen from 11 until 12. This week it's time for belly dancing with Step Inside between 1 and 2, followed by short mat bowls from 2 until 4. Later in the evening, Louise will be doing a Zumba class from 6:30 until 7:30. And it's happy hour at the Pond Barn between 5 and 8. Now on Thursday the 15th, Busybugs Toddlers Gym will be happening at the barn between 9:15 and 12:15. And for people who'd rather be having a sitting down morning, how about Stitch and Yarn at the Witterings Medical Centre between 10:30 and 12:30 in the morning. It's also the day for Knit and Natter at East Wittering Library between 11 and 12:30. The Witterings Master Art Group will meet at 10, finishing at 12 at West Wittering Memorial Hall. There's also a chance to do short mat bowls at West Wittering from 10 until 12, 2 until 4 and 7 until 9:30. That will be held at the West Wittering Memorial Hall. If you're interested in going along, you do need to speak to Maggie. Her number is 673 231. That's 673 231. Now for the youngsters, it's time for the Junior Youth Club. That's for 8 to 12-year-olds at the Youth Centre between 5 and 6:30 p.m. Then it's a chance for the older ones, 12 to 17-year-olds, between 6:30 and 8:30. Both of those are held at the Youth Centre. On Friday the 16th, there'll be a baby sing and sign meeting at Bracklesham Barn between 9:45 and 11:45 in the morning. Then in the afternoon, it's time for short mat bowls at the barn between 2 and 4. The Witterings Quilters Quilting Bee will meet at St Peter's Church Hall between 10:30 and 4:30. If you'd like to know more about that, then do speak to Judith Rogers. Her number is 511431. That's Judith on 511431. On Saturday the 17th of September, there's going to be an Apple Fest. That's to be held in the field opposite Birdham Church on Saturday. Then Sunday, Windrush Church will be having their usual meeting at the barn between 10:30 and 12:45, and in the evening there'll be the Pond Barn Quiz Night at 8 o'clock. On Monday the 19th of September, the Little Ducklings Mother and Toddler Group will meet at Bracklesham Barn between 9:30 and 11:30. Also alongside that, it's time for short mat bowls at the barn between 10:30 and 1. Later in the evening, between 7 and 8:30, Elaine will be taking a yoga class at Bracklesham Barn. And you can also try ARO, Ladies Beginner Kickboxing. Verity will be doing that class between 7:30 and 8:30. The next day, Tuesday, the 20th of September, it's time for Little Explorers Play and Learn Together. They're meeting at Bracklesham Barn between 9:30 and 11. On Tuesday, it's also time for Meet and Greet at West Wittering Memorial Hall. They'll be having coffee, games, homemade soup and a roll. They meet between 10:15 till 1 o'clock. It's also time for yoga with Elaine between 10 and 11 at Bracklesham Barn, and then in the afternoon there's a chance to try Tai Chi. That's at 4 o'clock. In the evening at West Wittering Memorial Hall, there's the Community Pop Choir. They meet from 7 until 9. And at the barn in Bracklesham, it's time for Badminton Club. That's from 7:30 until 9:30. And there's free pool at the Pond Barn as well. So that's our weekly look at what's going on the Manhood Peninsula. Hope you find plenty to do, and I'll speak to you again next week. Bye for now.
Thank you, Alison. Plenty of things to keep us busy. Now, if you ever wondered what the Town Council does for us, now is your chance to find out as we go over to Keith, who is talking to Becky White.
Right, joining me now is Becky White, and Becky is the new town clerk. And I say new town clerk because she started in December last year. And Becky's going to be telling us a little bit about what's gone on since she joined the town council and started working here at the town hall, which is where we're recording today. Morning, Becky.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Now, new town clerk. I mean, eventually that title's got to wear out, hasn't it?
Yes.
Just the town clerk. But since you started in December last year, have there been major projects that you're involved in that you...
There have been. I think that my predecessor, Jill Jennings, who was fantastic to me, I joined the council a couple of years ago as operations manager. Jill had been here for 11 years when she retired in December, and was still referred to some people as the new clerk. So I think I've got a fair way to go before that wears off. But yes, we have had a lot of changes. I mean, the office that we're sitting in now used to be a cupboard, so we've seen a lot of changes to the town hall itself. Some new staff. We've got Chris Pilkington now, who's the Selsey Works coordinator,
Yes, yeah.
and Mel Crocker, who's the new operations manager. We've got some new admin staff, as several of our old ones have gone on to pastures new. One of them's travelling around Europe as we speak. But we've also had
That's a good job if you can get it.
It really is, absolutely. We were all very jealous, actually, when she left to do that. But we've had some really big projects in Selsey, some of which started before I took over in December. Because, in council life, everything takes a little bit of time. A seed is sowed. It has to be, it has to come to fruition. So we had the community fund. The council were very fortunate to receive a sum of money from the surrender of a lease. And it was decided last year, 2015, that 300,000 would be made available to the community for groups to bid ideas and projects or things that they'd like to see happening in Selsey, or projects for them to develop as groups. So we had a community fund panel, a panel of councillors who looked at all the applications and determined each one its own merits, looked at the way that they would benefit Selsey as a whole, the greatest possible cross-section of residents, and projects that had their own long-term sustainability. And we were really pleased to be able to, in April, give out those awards, and the awards came in total to £200,000, which is a significant.
It's a very significant amount of money,
especially for a relatively small community. So obviously, for those of you who have got their calculators out, we've now got a remaining pot of money, and the council is going to convene a new panel, and then a new round of applications will be invited in the autumn, sort of winter of this year. So that was a really important project to be involved in, because you could really see the difference that money would make to the individual groups. So for instance, Selsey First Responders was a recipient of the first round of awards, and that made all the difference to them, because it's meant that they've now got the money to replace the vehicles.
Oh, absolutely.
And to carry on.
I'm a great supporter of the first responders personally, because I've had to use them in the past, and so they always get my vote.
Well, absolutely. I think a lot of people didn't realise, because they're such an amazing service and so professional, I think a lot of people didn't realise that they don't receive any funding. They're entirely self-funded.
A lot of people, I think, were very much the same as me, that didn't realise that they weren't part of the NHS.
No.
And they're not funded by the NHS, and I can't stress that strongly enough, because people are out there still like me that think that everything they get comes from the NHS. And of course it doesn't.
No, I mean, they are an amazing bunch of volunteers.
Oh, absolutely.
And the fact that the council were able to give them a grant that helped secure, their future in Selsey, well, that's something that we'll all benefit from.
When you're lying on the floor, and I've said it before, and you think your ticker's backing up, and all of a sudden that first responder turns up, you feel so much better just by them being there.
Absolutely.
And they're there within just a few minutes, whereas an ambulance can take 18, 20 minutes.
Absolutely. I mean, they really are an essential service. We were able to help Selsey Carers.
Yes.
Carers Support Group, they're called now. They had their AGM in the building today, actually. And again, it's a kind of hidden, unseen service. Where we live in Selsey, there are a lot of people who, are just slowly, quietly, every day, getting on with the business of looking after a loved one. They don't get much support, they don't get any payment, very little recognition, and the Carers Support Group is an essential lifeline. Just somebody to pop in and have a chat with and a coffee with.
Just unburden yourself a little bit and talk to people, like-minded people as well.
Definitely. People who understand exactly what you're going through. And again, that's a service that benefits us all, because none of us are getting any younger. We all have parents and grandparents to look after, and knowing that service is there, somewhere that you can access everything that you might need, it really makes a difference. Because I've never experienced anything like Selsey has in terms of community engagement and support. The way the groups work together, there's a group for virtually every interest or every advice service that you might need in Selsey. That's really quite astonishing.
I'm just laughing because my son's looking to move down here, and a friend of his said to him, "Why would you want to move to Selsey? There is absolutely nothing to do." It couldn't be further from the truth.
No, it really couldn't.
Further from the truth. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I know some people who barely touch the ground because they're so busy from 1 week to another with everything that's going on. I mean, we have got all the volunteer groups, and we've got the cinema club here. Just an astonishing array. Again, the Scouts were another group that we were able to help, and we've got Sports Stream who are working with the football and cricket clubs to build a new pavilion, and that will be hopefully a sports hub for anyone who wants to run any kind of sports group in the town.
That'll be brilliant. That really will be.
It really will be.
The youngsters around here deserve something like that.
Well, they do, because they've had a fairly tough time recently, haven't they?
They certainly have, yes.
So that's for us at the town hall. That's the next big project on our horizon. Obviously, after the fire at the academy, we've all worked really hard with the team at the academy. Tom Garfield, Jackie Shepherd, Francis Carver, and all the rest of the staff, in trying to make sure that the children can stay in the town. I know the older ones will have to go to Chichester for some of their specialist lessons. But, in the main, they will be here. So next Monday, 12th of September, we will have approximately 150 11 to 13-year-olds on the town hall site, which would be quite interesting and be great fun. We're looking forward to having them.
Yes. Yeah. No, it is good that they've been able to stay locally rather than have to move out of the town or village. We won't go over that argument, but yeah, it's great that they can remain here, and then they're going. I know some are coming here, some are going to Bun Leisure. Yeah,
and some are staying on the
Selsey
site.
Centre, I believe. Some are staying on site because there is a little bit of the school left.
Well, the sports hall, is intact, so they'll have their reception there and the Year 9s there. But again, the experience just showed again what a strong community Selsey is, because immediately it went up on the Chichester Observer website and the Academy website that the Year 7s and 8s would be coming here. We had people phoning us to see if they'd like us to cancel their booking, offering to move, seeing what help we could get. The Monday after the fire, the community bus volunteers phoned and put the bus at the school's disposal. People have been astonishing. It's been humbling to be a part of it. The fact that everybody just wants to do everything they can to support the school.
And the people of Selsey can be proud of the people of Selsey.
Oh, absolutely. I've lived here for 20 odd years. My husband's born and bred. And on that Sunday night, after the fire, when everybody was still feeling so shocked, I said to him, why can't Selsey for once be in the news for something really positive? Not tornadoes or hurricanes or fires. And actually, for me, everything that's come out since the fire, that has been the positive thing. It's just reminded me all over again what an amazing place it is to live in.
I was actually away and I was staying with a friend of mine, and they said, you better look at this. And they showed me that it was on the news on the BBC. That was quite early on, quite early in the day. And I was absolutely shocked. I mean, it's gobsmacked. A week before, we'd been putting on a show there.
This is it.
There it was, gone.
I mean, the fact that you said you're putting on a show there, the school was a real hub for the town, a real heart, it was at the very heart of the town. I don't think there are many places, there aren't many towns or villages in England that could have just got on with sorting the job out themselves in such a short space of time.
No.
I mean, the staff at the academy particularly, but just the community as a whole have come together in such a way. And that's one of the things I think that defines Selsey. Some people have told me, it's the biggest cul-de-sac in Britain. But because we're 8 miles from everywhere else, we get on with doing the job.
Yes. Well, I've got to say, I don't mind being at the end of the cul-de-sac.
No, absolutely.
It doesn't bother me at all. And being at the end of the cul-de-sac means we've got to have access, and that brings me on to the next point in question, which of course is the A27.
A27 consultation, absolutely. So obviously we've all had our letters from Highways England, we've seen it in the news. We know that the consultation finishes on the 22nd of September. We were all a bit surprised when we got the letter to find that they weren't intending to hold a public exhibition in Selsey. Given that we have a population of 11,000, which goes to 25,000 in the summer months when the camp's at capacity, we think that was a bit of an oversight. So I contacted Highways England, as did all the district councillors for Selsey, so Carol Pennell, John Connor, John Elliott, Darren Wake and Roger Barrow. We all got in touch with them, and I know that Carol was really proactive in working with Highways England, to make sure that they could get down here and hold an event here. So obviously that took place on Monday at the Selsey Centre.
Yes, I attended.
And how did you get on?
Well, I'm a bit fatalistic, very negative with all these things, because they seem to have been put together by people that don't actually know what they're talking about, even if they're experts. And I'm known to be a bit of a Victor Meldrew. To me, none of the options available made complete sense. Some of them made some sense, some of them made no sense whatsoever, but they didn't seem to have been put together by somebody that actually lives and travels a road regularly, or those roads regularly. But we'll have to wait and see. We'll just wait and see what happens.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd always, one of my phrases at work is that you've got to be in it to win it. Your view only counts if you're prepared to give that to somebody. And, for me, it was a real achievement to make sure that people in Selsey had the opportunity to give their view across.
Yes.
And we've got the Town Council, when the consultation opened, they appointed a dedicated group of councillors who sat down and looked at all the possible options. And so we're having an extra full council meeting on the 14th of September to discuss the views of the council, so that the council can then submit their own response to highways. And, that will all be taken into consideration. It is hard not to be fatalistic. It is hard when you live at the end of an 8-mile single highway, not to think that whatever they do at the A27 won't really make much difference to us in the end. But at least we've had the chance to put our views across.
Oh, absolutely that. The presentation hadn't been made available to us, and so it just whipped by without. We'd have been stuck down there, we wouldn't know why people weren't coming anymore.
It would have been an awful shame.
In my book, the best thing that can happen is that it causes absolute chaos on the A27, and so people don't want to come and visit Selsey anymore. Because I'm a bit like that.
Anyone who commutes out of Selsey on a daily basis won't thank you for that view.
No, I'm sure they won't. And because I'm retired, I can sit back and not have to go into Chichester every day or anywhere else every day.
We did have a note actually today. I had an email from Highways England saying that 600 people plus attended the Selsey Centre on Monday. So at least people did take the opportunity to actually go. And they did mention to me it was their highest turnout so far.
Was it really?
So well worth them coming down here.
Oh, it was indeed, yes. I mean, as much as most of the people that I spoke to were as similarly negative as I was, in as much as, well, there's nothing we can do about it. Whatever they say they're going to do. Option 4 wasn't an option because the landed gentry have decided they don't want it. We were told that was not an option because it was out of budget, but then one of the other options was also out of budget, to which there wasn't really an answer.
No.
But one of the options, I think, must have been planned to be done by some very shoddy builders, because it was only probably 25% of the cost of any of the others. So I guess that was the real cheap version, coming out with 47 million.
I will be very interested to see the results of the public consultation, because I have a certain sympathy as clerk. Obviously, I help the council to make sure that its decisions are lawful and that we're doing things properly, but it's not my view that counts. It's the view of the 14 councillors who sit round the table every 3 weeks and thrash things out. And so I have a certain sympathy, not with the options necessarily, but with the exercise of public consultation. You put it out there and you see what comes back. And we were quite cheeky actually as the town council, because we knew that there'd be a lot of people at the Selsey Centre. And the councillors, obviously there was an election last May, and we've got a new council. Some of the councillors have served before, but we had 5 councillors who were brand new to council life, and they've been working together to put together a draft business plan which looks at the priorities for Selsey over the next 4 years to 2019. So that's in draft form at the moment. So we got our display equipment out and we went down to the Selsey Centre, and all those 600 people that flowed into the Selsey Centre, we tried to grab them at the same time
Yes,
to
I was
say,
accosted by Mike Bill myself.
well, there you go, chair of the council. He was there from 10 a.m. till 8 p.m.
Yes, and he was doing a fine job of it, I have to
Did
say.
sterling work. But it was a real opportunity for us to, get people face to face and say, look, this is what we're thinking about doing. What do you think? It's your money we're spending, and that's what we're always conscious of.
But hopefully people will have responded a bit more positively than me, but responded to the fact that you had done it and you were doing it, and then and people see that, well, we've got a chance to say our piece. If we choose not to, it's up to us. Of course.
Absolutely.
If we go away like a upset child with a tail between her legs, and that's up to us. But we've had the opportunity to say our piece, and that opportunity, especially on the A2017, was given to us because of the work done down here.
Well, this is it. I mean, it is really important to have your say, but equally, we as a council have to make sure people have the opportunity to do that. And there was a lot of feedback on the day that people were just pleased to be asked what they thought, whether they chose to give a view or not. And this is why, for us, the Academy coming to us is a really positive opportunity, because actually it means that we get to see people that we would never normally encounter. Secondary school children and their parents and their teaching staff aren't a group of people that regularly come into contact with the council. So it's a really good opportunity for us to get different feedback and to get to know the community in a different way.
Well, let's hope you survive it.
Well, I hope so. Well, thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure, and I'm sure we'll catch up with you again sometime in the future to see if you did survive.
Yeah, let's see. We'll have the before and after story, shall we?
Absolutely. Well, thanks once again for coming in, Becky, and giving us the time. I know you're extremely busy, and it's been wonderful talking to you, and it'll be fun to catch up with you shortly.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now an unusual gardening item as we go over to David.
Hello. And today I'd like to talk about your garden containers. It's now in September and the containers are beginning to look a bit tatty. The plants have probably been over their best, but there will be some life left in them, so continue to feed and continue to water. However, they are coming to an end, and you now need to decide what to do about your containers for the autumn and early winter. You might say, actually, I don't want anything. I'm quite happy for the container to be vacant there until the spring, when I'll probably put in some pansies and maybe a few other plants. Well, I say to you, why don't you consider putting plants in now that will grow into the spring, and then put some more plants in the spring. So, what to do? First, prepare the pot. Tip out all the soil you've had in there before. I know it may seem a waste, but put it onto the garden. It works as a good top dressing, puts organic material into the garden, and is beneficial to the plants. If you've got a terracotta pot, I always put a plastic bag inside it. That stops the water loss. If you've got a plastic pot, that doesn't matter. So line the terracotta pot with plastic and then put in your compost. Choose good quality compost, or particularly I like to use John Innes No. 2. It's got a good amount of fertiliser for container plants. Now, what I would rather do this time of the year is put in some plants like bulbs, which will grow into the spring, and the gaps that you've got left in the spring, put in some spring growing plants. So for example, put some tete-a-tete daffodils in. Those are the short, small daffodils. And on top of that, put the potting compost, and then maybe just leave it. And in the spring, you'll have some gaps where you can put other plants. Or maybe you want to put in a skimia, or some heathers, or some cyclamens, or some euonymus. There's quite a few plants you can put in now, which you can buy in a garden centre at quite small, and then later on you'll be able to take them out of the plant pot and put them into your garden. So you've now got these plants with the bulbs in. They'll be growing up through into the autumn with the skimmias on top. What you might like to decide in the spring is then to put in maybe some heucheras, or some bellis perennis, or some forget-me-nots in the gaps that we got left over. So you've got a pot plant that will show some growth in the autumn with the heathers, and into the spring you can put a bit of colour. Containers. I like to get 3 seasons out of my containers. So this is the second season of the year. It's the late autumn going into early winter. And then in the spring, you get your third season when your hyacinths come through, your tulips come through, maybe your grape hyacinths come through, and then you can put in your Bellis perennis, which have overwintered very well. Thank you.
Thanks, David. And it's now a welcome return from our quizmaster Kevin as he offers us another challenging quiz.
Right, hi there, it's Kevin the Quiz with this week's Connection Quiz. 5 general knowledge questions. So you're looking for the answers to 5 questions, but what connects all the answers, as usual? Question number 1, tricky one to start with. Which luxury Rolls-Royce model was first introduced in 1925? Question number 2, pop music. Which 1979 Squeeze single includes these lyrics? The Sweeney's doing 90 because they got nowhere to go. Question number 3, this is a local question. The Riviera in Selsey. But what is the name of the Riviera's sister restaurant in East Wittering? What is it called? Question number 4, sport question. What is the tennis term for 0 or 0? And question number 5, this should help you with the connection. Who in the Bible wore a coat of many colours? So there's your questions, but what connects all the answers? Good luck. Get the answers soon.
I'm sure you agree that was a challenging way to end our programme, so it just remains for me to thank all our contributors, including Local Life magazine, our sound editor John Mallett, our presenters Alison, David and Keith, not forgetting of course our producer John Fletcher. So it's goodbye from me, Tony Weiner, until next time, bye.